What's going on? So, I want to make this video about psychedelics, but I also want to make this more about, I guess, how psychedelics are like an art. I remember Terrence McKenna talking about this, and I forget who I was watching the video with, but it kind of went over their head. And what Terrence was getting at, and what this means is psychedelics are an art form that you have to learn how to do. The first time you had sex, you didn't know what you were doing. The first time you made a song is not as good as the last time you made a song. The first time you tried painting, you didn't know as much as you do now that you've painted hundreds of paintings. So your first psychedelic experience, you're not gonna be as whatever as you would for your 100th experience. And why you're using it is key. I was watching Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia, and it's his episode on bufotenine. Now, bufotenine is a tryptamine molecule or whatever, but that's not the point. The point is that as he was doing this with the shaman was kind of telling him that it's something, he has to teach him or whatever, and it clicked. One, the slight disconnection of culture, you know what I mean? So Hamilton wanted to learn a certain way, but the dude had like the cultural way of doing it, so he was trying to teach him the cultural way of doing it. But it made me think, with substances like that, so bufotenine, LSA, which is Hawaiian baby widow seeds and morning glory seeds, ayahuasca, mushrooms, these type of substances are substances that you learn how to travel with. You have to learn how to communicate with it. You have to learn how to push it. At low doses of Hawaiian baby widow seeds, I'm able to push it into having closed eye visuals, having visions of the future and visions of things and things I can't explain, but it's a very visionary substance. Psychedelic mushrooms, when done in the right set and setting, blindfold on, silent darkness, or maybe play a frequency or something, and it can set the tone right to push you into a visionary experience. This happens to me with motherwort. So when I take motherwort, Leonoris cardiaca, and I take a really high dose of it, which I call a shamanic dose, I get my rain stick and I shake the rain stick, and the rain stick allows me to transcend and to have visions and to have closed eye visions. Now, I was watching the shaman kind of do the same thing. The shamans have their little shaking thing, and they shake it, and then they have their visions. This is something that humans have been learning how to do for thousands of years. Like, the shaman was the first person to understand that you take the plant and then you shake the rain stick or whatever, and as you're shaking it, the sound kind of carries you. And when it comes to psychedelics, sound can carry you. Vibrations can carry you. And sometimes, like Hamilton, I was watching Hamilton, Morris, and he took the bufotenine seeds, but he asked the shaman basically if he can have more. And it made me realize that the shaman basically is so used to the substance and understands it that he could take a small amount, push it with his consciousness, push it with the rain stick, and is able to push the experience to a deeper experience. So someone who doesn't know how to do that is going to require more of the substance in order to get to the same place the shaman was able to get to. But it's the same reason why now, after hundreds of experiences with DMT, I'm able to smoke a little bit of DMT and I can push the experience into a breakthrough. It's a very weird thing, but once you know that these substances are basically conscious, like you're able to communicate with them, they're able to communicate with you, not in words all the time, but in visions, in intensity, in a lot of ways. But and sometimes they speak to you in English, sometimes they'll speak to you in your native language, but a lot of times it's showing you things. So it's like building a relationship with ayahuasca. People who have built a relationship with ayahuasca, they take the ayahuasca and they can maneuver in that world. They're able to go to certain places, certain spots inside of the tryptamine world because they've gotten to know it so well. And that's me when I smoke DMT. like I said, when I do Hawaiian Woodrow seeds, last time I did mushrooms, I only did an eighth of mushrooms, and I was able to have what Terence McKenna called the heroic dose on just an eighth of mushrooms. You know, eighth of mushrooms, silent darkness, blindfold on. This was able to push it into closed eye visuals, into having a similar experience that someone would have if they had 5 grams. The difference is the 5 grams of mushrooms is more in your face, and the eighth of mushrooms, I had to push it. But so many people don't know how to push it. So they kind of are like, well, I'll just take more. When really the main problem is probably their set and setting. That if you turn the music off, you tell your friends to stop talking, and you sit in silence for a little while, sit in silence and meditate, and then pay attention, you can push the experience based on that. You don't always have to take more. But there's this weird thing, and I think it's just about learning how to, as Dennis McKenna said, get your sea legs on with the psychedelic. So it's like in the beginning you don't know what you're doing, but if your intention is to get better at it, like people who paint paintings or people who make music or people who uh, create things, their intention is to get better at the things they create. So that's kind of my intention when I use psychedelics. My intention is to get better at using the psychedelic, get better at communicating with the psychedelic, get better at uh, learning from it, integrating what it has taught me and applying it to my physical day-to-day life. And like this is all just things that I'm slowly getting better at based on slowly just building my relationship with whatever psychedelic I'm using. But this is just how I do it. And it's not going to always work for everyone else, but, I just know that it just takes time. It takes time to get to, in a real human relationship, it takes time to build a relationship with somebody. So it takes time to build a relationship with the plants and with the psychedelic substances. And that's what these shamans have done. That's the difference between psychedelics and drugs, is you build a relationship with it so it can show you itself. And it won't show you its full self unless it's comfortable with you and unless you're comfortable with it. It's a weird thing. Psychedelics are very, very weird.